The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful, wonderful special edition. I mean, everything that we do is special edition.
Yes.
But today it's even
extra special.
Extra special.
Yeah.
Because we have Alex from the Grayman Company. Did I say that properly?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. And again, for anyone that knows the podcast and listen to them regularly, I will always butcher names. But today I think I got that great. Thank you for that. Now, who is Alex? Now, if anybody's watching this, because we also have a life form in audio and video. When I was watching this, they're going to notice that we've obscured the identity of Alex.
And it's not like a butter grease spot on your phone or,
That's right.
or your iMac.
Right. Why have we obscured?
We've obscured Alex's identity because of some of his high-profile work that was done internationally.
Okay.
And that's all we're at liberty to say, so let's move on.
Okay, great. That's it. There you go. That's the clearance that you guys get today.
Is that good? Is that approved?
That is approved.
Okay,
Perfect.
wicked. Now, we're going to dive into a lot of what Alex does, and then he's created, first of all, some incredible, what would be the proper wordage?
We say tailoring.
Tailoring, okay, for these suits that a lot of people can really benefit from in the law enforcement communities. I mean, anyone can wear one of your beautiful suits, but
Usually high-profile individuals.
that's right. But there's a lot to these suits that your regular tip-top tailors would not have.
Hey, shout out to Tip Top.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of features that, like you were saying, anybody could benefit from to an extent. But for people in law enforcement and in security, and people who might have to go hands-on at a moment's notice, it enables a lot of these kinds of rapid movements.
Okay.
A lot of mobility, some armor built into the sleeves, for instance, cut-resistant armor, so like ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene, like basically Dyneema.
Hold on, say
and
that 4
Kevlar.
times fast.
Okay,
that was awesome.
You get used to it. Yeah.
So before we go into that, why don't we go into first, like, where did you see the need? I mean, like, for this to happen. Now, obviously, some more things we're going to find out about Alex is that he also is very well very well versed in the law enforcement industry, and he's done a lot of work that would basically give him the criteria or the knowledge base to be able to put a lot of the skill into these tailored suits. So why don't we get into that story, man? Like almost the origin story, right? Of like,
Yeah.
How did you start putting armor in a suit and factoring if buttons can open up your blazer to access your firearm and all, and all that good stuff, and having that extra so you don't rip it because of your lats? And
Yeah, each one of the options has its own story.
Yeah.
I've told them like a million times individually now.
Yeah.
But
Oh, nice.
yeah, this essentially comes from back when I started in the security world doing executive protection overseas, and I'm trying to think about how we're gonna. Okay, so we had a client who came in for a high-profile event in an Asian country, and there was at that time like a rugby team from the UK that had. This was like a country that didn't have a lot of expats at the time, right? So this rugby team was just like killing it. They were loving life. They were the center of attention for however long, because they were effectively like on exchange. They're a bunch of young guys.
Yeah.
And client came in. Obviously, client has a lot of money. Started buying everybody in the bar drinks, and all of a sudden, this spotlight was no longer on the rugby team. It was on this client who's quite a bit older and what have you. And they were kind of like, "What the hell?" So, as rugby teams are wont to do, although I hear that football, like soccer teams, are worse, but there was a bit of like a bit of like a what the hell kind of a moment, and it got hands on, it got physical. I don't think they realized that a lot of this guy's entourage were actually his security, and it wasn't quite as one-sided as they thought it would be.
This is a good opening scene in a movie.
100%.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Okay.
And I had just purchased a very nice suit, and there's a luxury tax in this country So that nice suit was incredibly expensive. But we had just seen a head of state that day. And prior to, my boss is basically like, Alex, we're going to see some heads of state. This is like a major event. You need to get a nice suit. And I was pretty young, and I was like, I thought this was a nice suit. And they were like, yeah. So that, that's something you learn in the industry, that there are suits that you can buy that are made to be disposable, that are made to survive, the 30-foot, 40-foot kind of inspection. And then there are suits that when you get to that level with VVIPs, when you are under that kind of scrutiny at the 5-foot level, and with people at that echelon who can recognize a cheap suit, you need to wear a better suit.
Right.
Yes.
So what's considered a cheap suit? What I mean by that is like
take notes, everybody.
Price wise, right? Because I think, look, I mean, I first discovered when I had a customized suit. And I always get my suits from like your Tip Top Tailors, your Long and Tall, and whatever those places are.
International clothing.
But at the end of the day, when I came down to say I need to have a proper suit, and I was first told the price, I had a little bit of a jaw drop, right? But I can tell you when I had this suit customized, I mean, I felt like I was the king of the world. I felt like that scene of Titanic with Jack. Yeah, and my hands up. I felt like this is it. I look good in this suit.
It was a little excessive when your neighbor started saying, "Why are you wearing a suit when you're cutting the grass?"
Yeah.
Let's just say you really fell in love with it, right?
So what would be considered? I mean, in just general retrospect, what a cheap suit? Like, I mean, obviously it's not custom. That's the number one thing, but price pointing wise.
Yeah, so
not to yours, but to the industry.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people have that moment that you had when they have their first custom suit, and it's like, oh my god, I want to wear this all the time.
Right.
So if you're getting a suit for less than $300, even $400, that's like generally a disposable quality suit.
Okay.
And that's not meant to sound too harsh.
Yes.
It is a suit that will get you, from an appearance standpoint, 60 to 70% of the way there. The vast majority of people aren't going to look at that and be like, that's like a cheap suit. And then sometimes you want the suit to appear to be affordable for whatever optical reason. I mean, especially if you're working, in a like a concierge setting where you are in residential concierge, for instance, if you're working a door at, a relatively high-end hotel or condo or something like that.
I mean, a lot of our guys wear suits in our industry in security because we do high-level stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about close protection. We're talking about like corporate, high-level corporate environments.
Yeah.
But they also have, a lot of them have two suits. And they wear the cheaper suit because for them, they know that the minute they have to kind of move forward, maybe grab someone, or if they are in a situation where they have to grab something, pick something up on the floor, that's it. They're going to get it tear or something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we'll go more into more of the design element of what you did, and you actually kind of filled the gapping or hole that was, in the industry. But.
So, that's the disposable suit.
Yes.
If you think you're going to go hands-on and it's going to get ruined, it's like, oh, well, that was $400. It sucks, but it is what it is.
That's right.
Or if there are attitudes involved with the clients where you want to be obviously the help, basically, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, to know, to know fill your lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fill us back in. We got to jump back into the story.
We're going to go back into the story now.
Okay, so we got the rugby team.
So we went hands-on, and I had just bought this suit, and it cost me thousands of dollars. It was gorgeous. My boss paid for it. I was very happy. It was a Xenia, like Armenia Yoda Xenia, triple X couture, and it was gorgeous. It was my first good suit.
What color was it?
It was gray, and it had a very, very subtle stripe on it, like a pinstripe.
Okay.
But it was very subtle, which you don't actually see much. It was a charcoal suit with a medium gray pinstripe. And it was lovely. And my boss, who was a former intelligence chief, he knew, he had been through it. He's quite a bit older. He had been through Reagan and all this stuff. So he knew fine quality tailoring, and he's like, this is a suit. He picked it out for me and everything. So I felt very taken care of and curated, which is something that we try to do at Grayman Company also, is we try to be that kind of mentor as far as tailoring and style for a lot of guys who just get in, who just want to get their first good suit and they don't really know what to get. So we got hands on, and we got the principal out. Everything was settled.
You guys danced.
Yeah, it was fun. My adrenaline was going, Not to say that, people should be getting hands on. Obviously exactly the opposite. But it was my first real scrum, it's the appropriate word for rugby team.
Yeah.
In uniform, so to speak. And after we got the principal back to his hotel, and we were, doing a really casual debrief in the car. Obviously, CP world, that when you get back home, you're gonna have to write up a report and everything before you go to bed, anyways. But I was saying, man, I'm feeling really loose right now. I got the adrenaline going still. I think I'm still revved up. And my partner, who was kind of my supervisor, he kind of laughed and he was like, "Oh, you feel really loose, eh?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "It's because he ripped your suit in 3 places." And I was like, "What?"
Oh, no.
And he's like, "Yeah, you didn't notice, eh? Back of the shoulders and the center back and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, man, crap."
Wow.
Now, thankfully, they ripped along the seams. So I went to a tailor, a local tailor that was recommended, and he just stitched it right back up. And I said, "Can you please reinforce these seams? In the future, I don't want it to, tear again and what have you." He said, "Sure." So he reinforced them. He used Tech 50 thread, and it was very solid. Then it happened again, and the fabric tore because the seams were reinforced.
Yes, they're too good. Yeah.
And then the suit was a write-off.
There's no give.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
So it was over.
Yeah.
So that was it. Yeah. So I was
that's a
pretty
lesson
upset.
to everybody, that you might fix it on one end, but you cause a problem in the other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny.
People a lot of people think, "Oh, just reinforce it." It's like, no, somebody's got to give eventually, right? So, and at that point, I was thinking, I actually asked him, because he'd been in the industry for quite a while. He was in close protection. He was military and law enforcement. And I was like, don't they make suits for us? Isn't there a company that makes a suit that you can dance in? They must, right? J. Edgar Hoover, FBI, John Diligent days, there were Tommy guns and all that stuff wearing suits. I mean, this is super old.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, there's no company that you just have to, have 2 tiers of suit, your disposable suit for if you have to get hands on, and your presentable suit, and just know when to wear which." And I was like, that seems like a gap. And then I went and I did that career in the private sector, close protection, investigations, intelligence, what have you, for many more years. And then I went corporate sector, Big Four. And I think when you're Big Four, everybody has an exit strategy. And by strategy, I mean a dream, not just in security, but anybody who's a consultant, accountant, they're always like, "Oh, I'm going to start my bed and breakfast, my ice cream shop, and whatever."
There's something,
Yeah, and
selling mopeds on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. A scuba shop, right? And one of my colleagues, he started a centrifugal ice cream shop in Taiwan, which is
amazing.
Yeah, he was a Harvard MBA and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about his Asian parents just being like, "Harvard MBA, you want to start this little ice cream shop?"
Hey.
Yeah, and I was like, if he can start an ice cream shop, I can start a tailoring house.
Yeah.
I know way more about tailoring than he does about ice cream.
So that's how you kind of got into it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you look, the way you are today, you present top notch. What is that movie, The Gentleman's Club, or where those guys that wear the suits and have the guns and all the closets? You know what I'm talking
Kingsman.
about? Kingsman, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you look like a Kingsman. Okay, but let me ask you this:
talking with 2 guys in hoodies.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a business idea, right, based on actual what is needed, but there's also the style element, right? Because it goes hand in hand, style and function.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you always have that growing up? Were you that guy?
Not growing up, no, not in my youth.
Yeah.
That moment in Asia was my moment where I realized it actually matters how I dress, because I think for quite a while in the 90s, there was a counterculture in fashion, and it became very gauche to kind of care about how you dress. I think for a couple decades, right? It was wow, that's, especially North America, right? There was a lot of this guy is a fop. I mean, I forgot what word we used to use in North America, but basically if you care too much about how you look, that's kind of a sign of weak character. There was definitely that.
Yes, yeah.
That trend. And so I was like that very much in my youth. I mean, especially when you're interfacing with the military, and exposed to that, and in that culture, there was definitely kind of a shame around caring how you look.
Word of being a poser.
Being a poser. Yeah, that's a big one. And so it took me a while, and I think exposure to the international world, the international market, and those ops was oh shit, actually people care about how you look.
Yeah, it matters.
That is a dimension that you have to master. It doesn't mean you have to always be dressed to the nines. It means you have to dress appropriately to the environment that you're in.
Okay, let's pause on that for a second. So, as a security agency, and that dabbles in obviously lots to do with close protection, high level stuff, we interview people on a regular basis. Now, a lot of these guys that come in here, Alex, their aspirations are to get into policing or some type of law enforcement. And a lot of times you'd be surprised how they're coming here and how they're presenting. Some of them look like they just woke up out of bed. Some of them look like they attempted and tried to put something that they thought looked good. And then others come in looking top notch. Now, I just want to kind of just focus on this piece again. You mentioned about, the element of dressing proper and putting yourself in these surroundings. How important is that? I mean, at the end of the day, when you're coming to make first impressions, whether that be in your close protection details, whether it be in your line of work or for an interview, how important is that?
Well, I think you just said it when you said first impression.
Okay.
Right? So it's hard to say that your appearance is more important than your competence, but sometimes with some employers or with some people you're interfacing with, a decision maker who controls your fate, your appearance is more important even than your competence. I think there's many studies done by many universities and many psychologists where they kind of evaluate the person who looks better, the person who is better, like, who do you pick? And it's usually like a 50-50 toss-up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
it's usually like, your first visual impression creates like a halo effect, I think in marketing they call it, but it filters everything everything, how you are perceived and every action you have going forward.
Yeah.
If you look the part, then you're given a lot of leeway because they assume that you are competent.
It's like assuming a tall person can play basketball.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
right.
You just assume.
Yes.
And then if you are competent but you don't look competent, every single thing you do moving forward is going to be judged as, this person is surprisingly competent.
Yeah, it kind of it feeds in, right?
Yeah.
I think that I heard once that most CEOs, as a majority, are tall, and they not just tall; they have a stature about them.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes with the territory of being able to.
It's like a leadership
run
aura.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Interesting, very interesting.
Napoleon didn't have that, but it's okay.
Yeah, he had to fight. That was a slight difference.
Which is the Napoleon.
Okay, so I think what was really cool. Okay, so the genesis of this, you start this company, and I think we're all about the mindset, the thinking behind. We had some conversation earlier, and you bring a really unique perspective because you're battle tested, what the people need, but you're also exposed to real small circle, high level strategic thinkers. Okay, and these are people maybe tucked away up in a tower that make large decisions that affect thousands of people. Okay. But you also know what those thousands of people have to endure, what it's like day after day from country to country with all your international experience. Give us an idea. Was that something has that always been you to try to kind of bridge the gap? Because we always find that some real movers and shakers, and I'm giving some air quotes for those listening, they have this natural inclination to see a gap and they think about how do I bridge it? Because that's 100% the way I look at your company. I totally see like this is a necessity. There's certain people, for them to work effectively and to actually keep their principle alive, for them to stay alive, they need to be wearing this stuff, right? So give me an idea of your thinking.
Well, I think anybody who's successful in almost any industry, including security, needs to have that bridge the gap mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started in the industry, was bridging a gap, because I had language skills that made me very marketable in these Asian countries.
Yeah, amazing.
And otherwise I wouldn't have gotten these roles. These roles tend to go to former special operations guys, SWAT, what have you. And at my age, with my level of experience, to jump right into close protection, ludicrous, like unheard of. Mm-hmm. Especially, this was when Blackwater was just getting hot, and we were making top dollar in that industry. But all of my contemporaries, the people I was working with, we brought in a bunch of operators for a major event, and they were all like former SAS or moonlighting or what have you.
Yeah.
And for me to be working alongside them was absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, amazing experience. Wow.
Yeah. But there was a gap for me to fill, right? I had the language skills they did not. Mm-hmm. I had local fluency, cultural knowledge, and what have you. So that's something that I would say to anybody who's looking to get, or already in law enforcement security, almost any industry. When you look to advance, I've gotten a bunch of people ask me, especially once I got into Big Four, and some of these people are elite military. How did you make that transition? How did you make a transition onto Civvy Street, what have you? I'm going to go, GI Bill, or I'm going to go get my degree or a post-grad degree for some of these guys who are officers. And I'm looking to speak Mandarin or Pashto or whatever it is, right? And I would always look and I'd be like, you know what? I think you have the right idea because you're trying to fill a gap, a capability gap. But you are going to learn how to speak this language nowhere near the level of someone who's luckily born speaking it at home or what have you.
Yes.
And, you obviously don't look the part, so, and you're never going to speak as well as they can. So you're kind of fighting an uphill battle here. My advice is you find your niche, you find that gap, which actually may be quite difficult to find because, there's so many people looking for gaps to fill, so to speak. But once you find it, you master it, and then you become indispensable.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I love that. That's
So
awesome.
for somebody who's trying to get into law enforcement, if you can figure out, and law enforcement's a bit different because, just like the military, they like to recruit blank slates that they can train up. But if you really want to impress someone, you have to give them incredibly deep knowledge in one area. So in law enforcement, you can go into race relations, community building, community policing. You can learn broken window theory in a lot of depth. You can learn case studies from certain cities that are analogous to your city. You can learn about tactical stuff if you want to. But, obviously, that's such a cool topic. There's tons of guys who know theoretically how to, like, breach a room or, no-knock warrants and what have you. But if you can find somewhere that doesn't have a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's great. And then work from there. Master, but it's not even just that. It's identify that, master it, and then now you're not indispensable. You're a true asset to the
That's
team.
good.
Right?
Yeah.
That's actually really, really good advice.
And you can get recruited, like if you go into, in the U.S. especially this happens, you go into local law enforcement knowing very specific details around a specific community or how to deal with that community.
Cultural sensitivity, something like that.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
And then that community becomes, put in the spotlight for whatever reason. You will get poached by federal level guys, Homeland Security, FBI, what have you, and brought in as a special consultant. Or they'll just want to recruit you directly for that knowledge. And that is how a lot of people for instance, like the CIA Counterterrorism Center, that's how they got their start, or the FBI when Homeland Security got started up. They were recruiting from all over the place. They were recruiting from like Baltimore PD, what have you. Guys who had just been on the job for a year, 2 years, who are now federal agents because they had very specific skills that they couldn't find anywhere else. The CIA, for instance, used to be all these, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Ivy League grads, and then they realized we don't have anybody here who can speak to a common person. And I think this transformation happened in the John Deutsch era or even before that about, we need to start recruiting from Michigan State, from places where normal people.
Get some guys from Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to find these gaps and then you have to master them. And that's how you really impress people.
I want to just tag on something to that, for those listening. Again, we have a pretty big audience that are aspiring to get into law enforcement. How you appropriate what Alex just said is know yourself. You got to know what you bring. Okay, you can't, going back to the person who's trying to compete with a native speaking individual who knows because they've been immersed in that culture for 30 years and you've been studying the language for 3 months. There's a big difference toe to toe. Know who you are, what you bring. We've seen kind of in protection, we've had clients tell us that, look, I'm just going to throw it out there. They specified a gender. Okay. For or against, and they say, hey, if we've known some police agencies that have said, okay, look, one recent, which is actually Peel, and we've been in contact with them, and they've been telling us about they're actively looking for females. Okay, and we find it's amazing because we have incredible females on our team, right? And they can't, from that point to work from there with what they know and the sensitivity and the thinking and the sense that they have. And I make an assumption most females have more sense and sensibility than males.
Yeah.
Okay. They're highly, highly needed, especially in the middle of conflict. I know directly working frontline within security that females saved the day many days because guys made it too simple and it got, let's just say that, the option to thump and dump, in a scenario was a lot closer, and it would have been a lot more real. But we had the sense of a woman, not the scent of a woman.
Yes.
Good movie. Remember?
Great film.
Ooh, ah.
Yeah.
Great film.
But the sense of a woman that would be like, listen, this is what we need to do. Let's talk. And I'll always remember how amazing that is. It's important. For our audience, we want to make sure that they feel empowered, that they think, okay, look, this is who I am, this is what I bring. But what I love what you brought to the conversation today, and I think we're going to keep pushing it in what we say, to master it, to really know who you are and what you bring, because that's the difference maker. That's how you stand out.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, my advice is always imagine your ideal project that you would execute in law enforcement or whatever.
That's good.
Right? And then be able to deliver that project from start to finish, like turnkey, like in your head.
Yes.
Conceptually. How would you do it?
Yes.
If you were to lead a project, law enforcement project, you want to take down a particular gang in your neighborhood that you've heard of or whatever it is, how would you do it? And in an interview, that expertise will come out because
right.
you will have mastered the strategic level all the way down to tactical operational level, down to that granular level where you were doing it with your own hands.
Okay.
And
Oh, that's so good.
that's experience that most people who are serving or working whatever job, they only know their lane. Like, oh, I'm middle management. I know
Yes.
how to manage people. Oh, like I'm a boot, or like I'm a ground pounder. I know the ground. Nobody knows that whole piece from top to bottom or where they fit into it.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
Look, you're saying so much, and it's so loaded because it's so good. Because most people they don't build that fluidity. They just kind of know what's at their feet. That's all, right? And what I love about that example is you're telling people self-prescribe something that no one's asking of you. Do this critical thinking, test it, right, and try to figure it out. Because one day someone might ask you, "What would you do?" Or right, or like this is what we're doing, and then any thoughts on it, right? Man, that's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it
that's
is.
amazing.
Well-
You should write something about that if
Yeah.
you haven't written,
I
because
know.
I know that when you say it, even how you said it, there's so much behind what you said. If you haven't written that out, or what, I'm just telling you, dude, I don't even know. I don't know you well. Okay, we're just kind of first time meeting, but you gotta put down the stories behind that, because that is huge to people. If people were thinking, what could I take control of? What do I have power to do now? Trusting that maybe someone will call upon it down the road.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of consultants do. When I say consultants, I mean McKinsey, BCG, Bain, like the prestigious management consulting firms and Big Four, which I worked at. In some ways, those are like the best jobs in the world. In some ways, they're the worst. It's corporate. But they are basically paid to play like Harvard MBA style case study games constantly.
Amazing.
A company will pay them and say, hey, we want to break into this market. How do we do it? And they will, from start to finish, create hypotheticals, options, theories, what have you. When I was at Big Four, we used to do that for security because I was a client-facing security consultant. I wasn't internal security, though they were our clients sometimes also. And we would get a lot of companies say, like, hey, we have a $50 million budget for security next year. Blue sky, how do we spend it if we want to create, if we want to eliminate our risk entirely from terrorism, for instance.
Okay, yeah.
And then the first response obviously is like, well, you can't eliminate
no
the
way.
risk. So,
Yeah.
you have to create there's a diminishing return point, right? You have to find
Yeah.
that balance point. But you would do that study. And that's something that when I first started, I would say, because, I have an advanced degree, I have an undergraduate degree, so I was very theoretical and what have you. I'd say, okay, well, you do this, you arrange it this way. Eric Wintoft says, this about, the ethics of surveillance or whatever it is. And my boss, who's his former SAS colonel, would be like, he'd give me this like look, and he'd be like, okay, well, sure,
Yeah.
fine.
Can maybe see through it.
Yeah, but also, like, what does this mean to a security guard who's actually executing the policy that
Exactly.
you just wrote? Like, how would you phrase that to the security guard? How would you take these surveillance, war ethics, etc., theorists and actually make that actionable? And I had no answer.
Why does it matter? Does it really need to be actionable?
Yeah, like why would I need to action, right? And then it's like, oh, wait a second, people are spending money on this. They're hiring people to do this, right? And that's when you realize, like, yeah, people at the top are in many ways very disconnected.
Yes.
But people at the bottom are always also very disconnected, right? They don't actually see the full picture. They don't see what the goal is, the commander's intent, what have you. So, yeah, that's when I realized, from a consulting standpoint, it is really important to know like what the guy on the ground is going to do and what the guy at the very top wants done at the strategic level and at the individual or tactical level.
Yeah.
So.
That's good, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, talking about A to B, the start to the end. If I wanted to get a Grayman Company suit, something that would not only look good but also have function in my job in close protection
While cutting grass.
what would be the experience? So how would I go about doing this? And for example, because I mean, like the questions that come into mind is, okay, if I want, my sleeves to have an element where they won't be able to rip if someone takes a knife out and tries to cut them, or if someone like what are the options I can put in this suit? Because typically speaking, the most that I've ever had a suit customized to is I can get the inside liner. I can have my name inside my suit.
Yeah,
but
we can do that.
That's pretty. That's pretty much it. What is the experience and what is the features and stuff, the upgrades that I can do to make it functional to my occupation?
So they're on our website, which is Grayman.company.
Okay.
But these are, like you said, they're options. It's a la carte. Some of our clients, they'll just purchase one option. Some will do every single option. We have RFID blocking pockets. You've seen the action back, that gusset in the shoulders that gives you that full range of movement.
But by the way, that's huge. That's
Yes.
huge for anyone that actively goes to the gym and works on their back a lot, or if your suits are not properly, I guess, tailored to your body, and you do try to just move your hands out, you will feel the tightness right by your lats.
Yeah.
And this thing that you're talking about, this stretching thing, gives you basically the ability to stretch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like
you can tie your shoelaces.
Okay,
is what I
yeah.
always love.
No
Yeah.
more impediment.
no more impediment.
Like my
Tie your
personal,
shoelaces. That's actually that's a real thing. Absolutely.
my personal friends who buy my suits, at first when I started the company, they were like, "Well, I don't really need a tactical suit, Alex." I was like, "Well, do you like to tie your shoes? Because that enables little things like that."
That's
true.
huge, man.
And even when they're properly tailored sometimes, unless you're going to Savile Row, which I'll tease, we
Yes.
have a thing coming up on Savile Row that may be very exciting.
Okay.
Savile Row in London being the original tailoring destination, you're talking about a $10,000 suit. It's very elite. I actually used to live above Savile Row in London.
That's it.
Yeah, just 10 years. And
10,000 pounds, buddy.
and that's it. And you're on a wait list. That's a
Yeah.
6-month.
Wow.
Wow.
That's like a year wait and then a 6-month process to get you fitted.
Wow.
Even at that level, often it's very restrictive. Because if you want it to look good, and especially these days, the style is a very fitted look, especially in the shoulders and the chest. If you want that, it's going to be restrictive. It's going to when you raise your arms or what have you, and especially if your sleeve pitch is right. The sleeve pitch being the angle of how your sleeve drops. If it's straight down, if it's slightly to the front. You notice that mannequins in stores, they're always like their arms are always out a little to the front in this
Right.
really unnatural
Oh,
way.
Yeah.
I see. That's why. Yeah.
It's because fashion designers realize that if the sleeve pitch is too straight down, and especially for military guys who are used to standing on a parade square, your sleeve pitch will be very straight down, right? You cover the donut holes, your thumb is along the seam of your trousers, that's what you get used to. If the sleeve pitch is too straight, that limits the mobility of the sleeve when you move forward, when you move your arms up. And so for off-the-rack suits, from that you buy in a store at Nordstrom's or whatever, they always position sleeve pitch a bit forward because it gives you as much range of motion as is possible on a normal suit.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is when you rest your arm, you get all these wrinkles and divots in your shoulder.
Yes.
Because it's not meant to be rested.
Yeah.
So the only way to combat that is to have a super stretchy fabric, which some companies do, but then it's not pure wool or it's not wool at all. It's a synthetic that's made to stretch. It's like active wear kind of stuff. And those suits do have their place in the industry and in general. But if you want a properly tailored suit with like a nice suiting fabric, like a wool fabric, what have you, it's even hard to do that. Our suits have a bit of stretch in them. And in addition, that action back, that gusset in the back makes like all the difference.
Do you put any Kevlar in the suits?
Yeah. So we have a weave or a knit, I should say. It's not woven; it's knitted. That goes in our sleeves. That's cut resistant.
Okay.
And we're constantly sourcing the newest technology when it comes to that armor. So we've changed the armor that goes in there twice now. And the current one we're using is ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, like Dyneema,
There you go.
with Kevlar and fiberglass. and that's knitted, and it's stretchy, and it is breathable because it's a knit. So it's a knit just like a PK t-shirt is.
Grandma.
Yeah. So it's and that'll stop. I believe that's ANSI level 4 right now. So that'll stop cuts. It won't stop stabs, which is a completely different measurement. It usually requires layering fabric to get stab resistance, but it is cut resistant.
Wow.
And so if somebody comes at you, it's not designed. It's the intent of it is not so that a guy can take a machete and just start hacking away your arm and you're fine, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Come on, come again.
Yeah. But it is designed to give you confidence so that if you have to handle somebody with an edge weapon, you know that those incidental, because you know what they say, anytime you handle a guy with an edge weapon, you're going to get cut.
100%.
It's going to happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this basically means that, okay, well, at least you know that your arm is going to have mitigated damage or no damage from those little incidental cuts.
Which would be for the majority slicing. That's when the slicing would come.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
If you get like a guy winding up full force with a very sharpened blade, it may penetrate. I mean, it's level 4. Some of the ones we have are level 5. But if you're grappling with a guy and you have him like a wrist lock, and it's a sloppy wrist lock and the blade is digging a little bit into your forearm, you know that with that amount of energy, those newtons or what have you, it's not going to penetrate, and you can safely continue that wrist lock.
Yes.
And that this comes from personal experience. You can safely continue that sloppy wrist lock and essentially put, your pain compliance or whatever, so he drops the weapon, rather than having to let go and reset because the blade is digging into your skin, and you know that if you continue holding that wrist lock, it's going to cut you, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would this experience be like? So I wanted to come down from beginning to end. I know you talked about it would be 6 months. Like, would it be like I'd come in, get fitted, and pick a color, and then away we go?
So we can do this all remotely, right? So you go to the website, Grayman Company, you look at the features. They're all a la carte.
And by the way, it's Grayman, not man, if anyone's listening.
Oh, yeah, we say Grayman.
Yeah,
It's
Grayman.
MAN. It's spelled the American spell. It's the American spelling for gray, Grayman.
Yeah.
But we like to say Grayman Company, like a proper tailoring house.
That's right.
Just because the word Grayman is used so much these days, right?
Exactly.
So you go to that website, you pick your features, you pick your fabric, and then after that, when you make your purchase, we give you a sizing form. And you fill that out. It's just your size, your weight, your age,
And don't lie. This is a form you don't want to
you
lie
do not
on.
lie. Yeah. And the measurements here. Oh no, we get that. So
That's what I'm saying. This, I guaranteed someone's done it.
90%. So we use an algorithm, right? And so you can put in really basic sizes. You don't have to everyone's like, oh, should I go to a tailor? It's like you can go to a tailor and get measured. But these are, if you go to your closet, usually a dress shirt will have the size, your collar size, whatever, right?
Yeah,
Stuff like that. But when we started talking to the company that does the algorithm, they were like 98% of men lie about their height. And
you
I was like,
kidding me?
what?
About their height.
98%.
Wow.
Yeah, and usually it's just like by an inch, right? They overestimate.
I thought it was
by
just
an
the
inch.
NBA, but I guess everybody does it.
They round up, right?
Yeah. 90% of people round up their height.
Oh,
Do you remember
my
Allen
goodness.
Iverson?
Yes.
People used to say that Allen Iverson was like 6'1", okay, or 6'2".
Yeah, he's not,
And his
no.
actual height was like 5'9".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they upgraded his height so much. The NBA actually stopped doing that now. They actually measure you without
It's
your
to up
shoes
his,
on.
It was to up his stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make it accurate right now. So 98%. That's
But I mean, he
amazing.
was still noticeably short compared to everybody else.
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
court.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So the lesson here is don't measure yourself if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Trust someone else.
Yeah,
okay?
trust somebody else.
Yeah.
Weight also was usually lower.
Right.
Trouser waist is always lower because there's vanity sizing. So when you go to buy a pair of jeans at wherever, Nordstrom, the Bay, or whatever, and it says 32, you're probably 35.
Oh,
It's a
interesting.
huge amount of vanity sizing.
Wow,
Huge.
really?
And there's two aspects. One is that, again, people
This is so
realize
funny.
that you don't want to know what your
Yeah,
real trouser
yeah.
size.
Yeah.
And the other is that we wear, the rise of the trouser, how high the waist is on
That's
your body
right.
has fluctuated.
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, most
funny.
people now wear their pants below their butt.
Yeah. It's quite a bit lower for men,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then the high waist was very popular with women recently.
That's
I
right.
think the Taylor Swift
Yeah,
brought
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
I've never even heard of vanity sizing, but
Wow,
it makes
man.
sense. They're being nice to the
Some of them-
to the market.
I bought a
right?
pair of jeans one time, and they had like an elastic in the waist. So it was, if you start putting weight on, you really can't tell. You know what I mean? The waist just starts stretching.
that's actually the nice thing about our action back is if you gain a little weight and COVID a lot of guys gained a little weight,
Yeah.
and you carry it more in your chest.
Yeah.
With the action back, you can still wear the jacket, and it's
Amazing.
like it's not so tight you can't move at all.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's good.
some guys flip their waist and their chest measurement, right? They just they flip it just to
Yeah, so we've had a lot of that. So how we
so
combat
funny.
that, right, though, is that you send us your sizes. Our algorithm gives us what your tailoring form should be. We make a fitting garment, which is just,
smart.
yeah, and that's actually quite expensive for us to do. But we do it because it brings the fit level from, like, if we just did the sizes when we tried this at the start, if we just did the algorithm on its own, we would get like a 30% return rate or a 40% return rate.
Yes.
Hypothetically. And
Yes.
we tried it. With a very small number, we didn't get that return rate, thankfully. But it just, the fits that we saw, we didn't like, and we remade a lot of suits. And so we're like, okay,
Interesting.
it's expensive for us to make this fitting garment.
And you're at the mercy of their lies, so you took control. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and nobody, you can't go to customer and be like, well, the suit didn't turn out because you're a liar. So we're just like, well, it doesn't fit you, right?
Oh, man, that's
so we
so
use the
funny.
fitting garment now,
Okay,
and we
good,
send
good.
that out. You try it on. In most cases, for guys who have very typical body types, that's it. You put on the fitting garment. Maybe the sleeve's a little short or a little long. Maybe it's a little tight or a little loose in the chest or something like that. And we make adjustments based on you trying on that fitting garment. We make your final job.
Wow.
One day you're gonna have a drone that shows up outside someone's place, and you're gonna have some avatar scan done,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna instruct them.
So
turn
they
around.
have that, not the drone, but they have body scanning.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't work for some reason.
Really?
Like,
For this, yeah.
yeah, the scanning works perfectly.
Yeah.
But tailors, especially my tailors,
Interesting.
who are very traditional, they still use paper. They don't use CAD or like computerized systems. They still use paper patterns. But even the ones that do, I've spoken to so many different tailoring houses, at huge ones that supply the big brands, and also tiny, petite, like super exclusive ones in like Palermo, Sicily, and stuff.
Oh, amazing.
None of them can use that 3D body scanning software well.
Really?
The tailors just don't know how to use them.
Wow, man.
It's an old industry, right? Your average age is like 69 or something like that. So
Okay, so once you get that thing now, they send it back to you guys. Then you
no, you don't send the fitting garment back.
Okay.
You can dispose of it after you get your suit.
Okay.
We make it out of like leftover fabric.
Okay.
We make it as cheaply as we can make
Okay,
it.
hold on.
Yeah.
It must look so cool. I mean, there's an artist out there who's like, give me that suit.
Oh yeah, I
You know
mean,
what I mean? It's the
it
epitome-
looks
if it-
ridiculous.
If it imagines all these different like
Yeah,
you know,
it's a hodgepodge.
yeah, it's all these
right?
remnents. It's like remnant pieces, and then some guy's gonna love that.
Okay,
I'm
so-
telling
So,
you.
so when they try that on, they get the measurements and send it back.
You
off.
take photographs.
Okay.
Wearing it.
Oh, okay.
9
Smart.
photographs,
Okay.
right? And then you give them your feedback. Give us your feedback, and then after that we make your final suit. Now we may have to send you another fitting garment if it's just too far off. That happens sometimes if the body type is very different. They're very athletic. You're a huge guy, or you've put on a lot of COVID weight or what have you, or you're just like crazy metabolism, ectomorph
Yeah, you go up
body.
and down,
You
yeah.
know.
And by the way, when did they pick the fabric, the colors, all that stuff?
That's all done at the start. So we have in-stock fabric that we have a crazy deal with Loro Piana on, and then we have a much larger collection that we have to order by the meter from Loro Piana, and we still get a decent deal, but it's just nowhere near as cost effective. But if you do want something that's quite distinctive, we offer what we think is for the industry and in general, their grays and their blues, and that is
blacks?
we have a black. We don't put it on the website. We should put it on the website because we get so many requests for it
Yeah.
at the bespoke level that it's like we might as well just put it on the website. At
You can
this
call
point.
Yeah.
it. You can call it the
But
Sentinel.
it seems like you're not a fan of the
They
black.
Should call it the Sentinel.
Yeah, you go Sentinel Black.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if you want to be noticed as a security guy,
Yeah.
black.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
In almost all cases, you can do the job of black with a dark. We have a gray that's very dark, and then we have a navy that's very dark, and you can do that job. So with our gray tick weave or our navy nail head, that'll do the job of black. In certain lighting, it will be black, like at
Yeah,
night
absolutely.
or what have you.
Yes.
And I would recommend that unless the job stipulates you have to wear black.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or if it's tuxedo,
Yeah.
you can wear, black
Like
is
what you have on right now is like a charcoal gray, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. It's
So
really
I
nice.
think maybe we gotta use ours for test, like a test experiment on one of us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to kind of like document the experience. So from the moment I start this process, picking the colors, do the fabric, get the measurements, all that, how long before I get my suit?
That's a good question.
Well, as
I
long
used
as you
to
don't
be-
lie in your numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Yes.
And as long as you get the photos back to us, we
Yeah.
have customers that, yeah, we're gonna have to do it again. We have customers that submitted measurements to us, and we sent them a fitting garment like a year ago. And they have the fitting garment. They just never bothered sending the photos back.
Wow.
We send like a reminder every like couple
I'm
weeks,
telling you, they love the fitting garment better.
and then after
telling
like
you.
a couple months, we just stop sending reminders because
Yeah.
we're like, I'm sure you're tired of the reminders at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
So, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
we're still waiting. So that's a big question also. But I used to be able to say like 2 months or whatever,
Yeah.
you're gonna have it. Now,
Supply demands, COVID,
yeah,
all
supply
that
chain
shipping, all
and
that
our
stuff.
tailors, and like for a while there was our tailors in Shanghai. They're known to my family really well. Like we've worked with them for a long time to make our family suits, and so it's a very small team. And so if one of them is sick, bang, my supply chain's screwed for like a week or whatever.
Okay.
Or if their daughter is sick, or if they have to fly home for whatever reason. So, and that's happened a lot more. I mean, they're again in China and Shanghai, and there were power fluctuations for a while. They would like lose power to their shop for like 2 days, things like that. So right now I quote 3 weeks now, or sorry, 3 months now.
Yes.
Just to be on the safe side, and we
Okay.
haven't had much trouble delivering outside of that time frame.
Okay, and that's and you deliver anywhere all over the world.
All over the world, yeah.
Okay, so Grayman.company.
Grayman Company, yeah.
I go on that website. I can basically see a catalog of options.
It sounds like you're considering this.
I actually am.
No,
I
obviously
am.
you're it's turned into like a sales
Yeah,
consultant.
and then we're gonna get maybe a near my man or something to come with his knife.
oh hey,
You know what I mean?
I have some guys
Slice
test
It will ruin the sleeve, unfortunately. But
hilarious.
no,
I don't
we've-
want- I don't wanna
I've
ruin
done-
this.
I've done this. Yeah, we've done this. It ruins the sleeve.
No, for me, I don't want to ruin it, man. I want to keep it nice and polished.
so funny.
To wear.
I actually wear my test suit sometimes just for fun. It's a conversation piece because people feel like, your sleeve is like ribbons, right? I'm like, oh yes. Somebody came at me with a knife and cut me up a bunch.
Oh, my goodness.
My arm is fine though.
No, but look, this is amazing. I think, Alex, it's an amazing service that you provide. As you said, you found a gap and you basically filled it right now. And I think it's needed. Now, I actually first heard about this through Byron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for all those that are listening, this podcast is shot in Canada, okay? And, it was just one of those things where, we got connected and just to find out that, we have a fellow patriot, that was able to put this together.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I'm really, really like intrigued by this. I think it's so needed, and I'm glad you were able to fill that void, man. And I actually do 100%. It's just not lip service. I do want to go through this experience because I think as we develop as an agency and we continue our journey, and it's all about for us, like we always say this, nobody made a difference by being like everyone else. And for us, kind of like what you're doing is very unique. It's very against the grain, and it's very specialized.
So Byron has a couple of things right now that we're going to debut soon. He has a couple of prototypes that your close protection guys, or I should say executive protection guys that you hire will probably be interested in. And I'm pretty excited to launch them. The products are done.
Yeah, you can't even talk about it, can you?
Oh no, I can talk a bit about it. We're going to launch them soon. The products are done. It's just I'm waiting for the website to get built for it, which
Okay.
is very frustrating.
So
for me.
is this going to be a Grayman Company kind of?
Yeah, it'll be Grayman Company.
Yeah.
And we already have a polo shirt that's out. It's pure merino, so it's sweat wicking, odor resistant, machine
Odor
washable.
resistant.
I wore it for 3 straight weeks. I would wear it
Yeah.
to sleep in bed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Merino
Wow.
was amazing.
No deodorant on.
No deodorant on, and after like 2 weeks,
and scratching.
yeah,
Yeah.
I hung it. I just hung it in
Yeah,
my
just let it
closet,
air
dry.
air
Yeah.
dry for like a few hours, and I put it on again.
That's amazing.
Holy cow! Do you know how amazing that is? I mean, for anyone that isn't like,
For close protection that travel,
oh my
Oh, yeah.
goodness.
you just
yeah.
buy it. You bring you have to often it's just a carry-on, especially if you're flying private jet, a small one.
Yeah.
It's not like you can bring in tons of check luggage.
Your luggage is an afterthought. Yeah.
I think if you make that for dress socks, you just got yourself a winner right there as well.
Yeah, we might be doing dress socks actually. So we have that.
Yeah.
That's already out, so you can go to the website and buy that now.
Okay.
And there's some like communications loops and stuff to wire management.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And then we're coming out with I have them now. We've got some in the wild that we've given to certain people to test out.
Okay.
Gloves, so they're cut resistant gloves, but they're deerskin driving gloves, like those old school driving gloves.
way.
So the palm and the fingers are cut resistant. We use Dyneema and super fabric on top of that, so it's 2 layers of protection. But you can't tell, right? There's no carbon fiber knuckles.
Yeah.
There's no skulls on it or anything like that. So when you
Wow.
wear it, it looks like these are just really like luxurious, and they are deerskin driving gloves. And then the third product is sunglasses, and they are
Speaking
impact
of,
resistant.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
resistant?
Impact resistant.
No
Okay.
way.
But-
you have a copy right now?
Yeah, they look like.
All right, first featured. Has you seen
They
anywhere
look
else?
like
Has
this.
anybody else seen this? Is this the first right now? Or are we doing
I think this is the first one. Yeah.
there you go, guys. Wow.
Oh wow.
So they don't look like you're about to invade Baghdad. You know,
Okay.
they're not like the single one shield,
Yeah.
kind of like the M-frame style.
Can I try them on?
Yeah.
Are they prescription or just regular?
No, these are regular. Sorry, they're smudged from my
That's fine,
my
man, that's
sweaty
fine.
hands, but they are made out of the lens technology is completely. They invented the lens technology in March 2020.
Taking a picture.
Wow. I mean, holy smokes.
We have an aviator, a plastic aviator version, just like what you're wearing, also.
Face me. Whoa, they look really cool.
They do.
Okay.
But they don't look tactical, right?
No, they don't.
No,
You're saying
not
they're
at all.
shatter resistant?
They're impact resistant.
Impact
Look
resistant.
at that.
We're
Oh, yeah.
working on an ANSI 87-1 rating for them. The problem with the ANSI rating is that it requires side shot protection also. So
Okay.
we're trying to figure out the compliance. But we tested them for high impact, a high velocity and a high mass impact. And they successfully passed it, like very easily.
Okay.
They didn't crack them or anything. And then we took a 22 cal pellet rifle and we shot it a bunch of times.
Are
With
you kidding me?
multiple, I should have brought in the one that got shot multiple times because you can barely tell. There's some nicks on it,
Yeah.
but no cracks or anything. And we shot it with like lead. We shot it with the hunting round, you know, the little
Yeah.
Oh,
tipped
yeah.
point
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Didn't penetrate the lens
Are you
a
kidding
single
me?
time.
Wow.
One lens we shot 24 times at point blank with like a 22, like a Daisy 22 pellet
So
rifle.
these are not released yet.
Not yet.
Is there like a retail value for these?
We haven't figured it out yet
Not
because
yet.
we're still negotiating the.
Now's your time to get one.
Yeah.
See.
More than a pair of Ray-Bans?
Not much more.
Okay.
It'll be similar.
Okay.
It'll be like it's going to be no less than 200, no more than 300.
So one's going to be fashionable, one's going to be fashionable and going to protect the
And
eyes.
it's scratch resistant.
Okay.
And everyone says they're scratch resistant, but they're not. You know, your ballistic lenses. I don't want to name drop, but your big names. They make great stuff, but they're all polycarbonate. And anybody who's been in the sandbox, Afghanistan, Iraq, they'll know that the second that you take those glasses out of your pack, they're scratched to hell. They look like they're fogged up. And it's just from sand or like little particles. And I was really surprised because it's like these things are meant to stop, you know, shrapnel like fragment.
Yeah.
But that's just how
to the
they
layman.
Wow.
That's what happens when you go to paintball that is in sand. Any of the shield guards, you can't see anything.
Exactly, because they're made of polycarbonate.
Yeah.
These are not.
That's amazing.
So these are as scratch resistant as glass,
wow.
which is highly scratch resistant.
Yes.
I've dropped the ones that you just put on. I've dropped on concrete multiple times, and like you can tell, I
Yeah.
mean, you can take a look again.
No,
There's
I
no
did. I looked at
scratches
them,
on
yeah.
them. There's not a single scratch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It astonished me, and then the quality of the clarity also. So the big companies that use polycarbonate, they have to put on all sorts of. They basically you're working with a really inferior material,
Yeah.
and so they put on really high tech films on it to try to basically upscale the resolution.
Yes.
If you're talking in like computer monitor terms, right? So they're trying to sharpen something on a material that's just not very transmissive in general. With this technology, which is urethane based, it's already very sharp. So they do have films that they put on top that we put on top of it also.
Yeah.
But it's just incredibly clear, as clear as glass, like crystal glass.
On its own.
So what
Yeah,
about
it's
somebody
insane.
now, like let's say they wear glasses. Like, I mean, Mike's, for example, his glasses are prescribed.
Yes.
Should I have said that?
Yeah. That's
So we can do
absolutely. I'm okay
prescription.
with that.
You can do prescription.
So we're working on that. That's part of our
Wow.
website right now. We can do prescription. It's not cheap, but it's no more expensive than if you were to go to Lens Crafters or
comparable.
something.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an extra like $200 or something like that. We're working on the pricing with a provider right now,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
but we can do prescription.
When are you going to launch all this? I know these are all prototypes right now. When are you looking at launching them?
So the gloves are done.
Yes.
I've got a bunch of them sitting in my basement right now, and we've
Okay.
got a bunch in our shipping facility. The sunglasses, the lenses are complete. The frames, which are like Italian Mazzucchelli acetate frames, they're complete. They're all sitting in the U.S., waiting for the lenses to be installed in the glasses. And I'm waiting, and that can all be done in like a week. The lab can, what they call etch and lens or whatever, all of these in a week. I'm just waiting for the website to be finished,
Okay.
which has,
Okay.
if anybody knows the story of my polo shirt, that took like 4 months.
Yeah.
It drove me absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's what happens. You got to use Fiverr.
Oh
it,
my
man.
gosh,
You got to
man.
use Fiverr.
Yeah, I went through like 4 different developers. The problem was that I had a very high security developer working on my original site,
Right.
and he his experiences with these huge tech companies, he makes a lot of money. He did for free for me as a friend.
Yeah.
And he's now on this multi-million-dollar project he's getting paid for, so he can't afford the time to work on my site. And no, I can't afford to find, not even afford, I can't even find a developer who can work with
What he's
the
done.
platform that
Wow.
he made.
Yeah, pick this up, right?
Yeah. So I had to start, that's why my polo shirt is made on a separate platform, and then I
wow.
link it, like the polo shirt page. So I don't want to get into too many security-related details on the website, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's good,
That's
man.
what happens.
yeah, I had
Look,
to go.
there's a lot, man. There's a lot. And to me, Alex, I want to thank you for coming down today, bro. I'll tell you this right now. I truly, like I said, I think it's needed. And I'm actually looking forward. Now, for anyone listening again, these products that are going to be coming to the site and what we have currently right now, if anyone wants to go, it's grayman.company.com.
No, just Grayman.company.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's
yeah.
it. Grayman. That's nice and easy. And get that customized experience. We're going to get probably some videos from you to put some anything that you have at all, we can kind of add to this as well to kind of guide people to the site. But this is much needed, man. And I really, really want to thank you. I learned a lot today. And I think a lot of people will be able to benefit from this. And it's actually needed because I know a lot of the stuff, especially in Canada, when we look at CP, EP, however you want to word it, but it's not as a high demand here in Canada, but there is a lot. There's a lot that happens. And
Increasing.
It's increasing. We may not be the U.S. We're going to get there, but the actual need still is here very heavy. So
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of pushing it out, man.
I'm excited to see where you're thinking too, because I know this is the vehicle, this is the endeavor you have, but I know you have a lot of other things cooking. It's interesting. We want to see where you kind of grow it.
Yeah.
Your thinking is much needed. And
I've got about a 20 product pipeline
okay.
in my, written down.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, for guys, all these little, like you were saying, gaps
Yeah.
that you realize
Yes.
you need this product. And we're just slowly trying to crack through it.
Well, there you go. We're going to have 14 episodes, season 2, all with Alex. Okay. Alex, thank you so much for coming down, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate
right.
the opportunity.
Awesome.
I love what
awesome.
you guys are doing here.
Thank you so much,
Having
man.
fun, man. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, guys, have a good one.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.